Welcome to San Academy Pallikaranai, Class 7 Social Science. Happy day, students. We are going to learn our next chapter from Social and Political Life, chapter number 9, Struggles for Equality. Topics to be covered: an introduction of the topic, Struggles for Equality, Tawa Sang, the Indian Constitution as a living document. As you have already read in this book, the Indian Constitution recognizes all Indians as equal before the law and states that no person can be discriminated against because of this religion, sex, caste, or whether they are rich or poor. All adults in India have the equal right to vote during elections, and this power over the ballot box has been used by people to elect or replace their representatives. But this feeling of equality that the ballot box provides because the vote of one person is as good as that of another does not extend to most people's lives. As you have read, the increasing privatization of health services and the neglect of government hospitals have made it difficult for most people like Kanta, Hakim Sheikh, and Aman to get good quality health care. These people do not have the resources to afford extensive private health services. Similarly, the man who sells juice does not have the resource to compete with all the other major companies who sell branded drinks through expensive advertising. Swapna does not have sufficient resources to grow cotton, so has to take a loan from the trader to grow her crop. This forces her to sell her cotton at lower price. Melanie, like the millions of domestic workers across the country, is forced to endure the insults and hardships of working as a domestic help because she has no resources to set up something on her own. But poverty and the lack of resources continue to be a key reason why so many people's lives in India are highly unequal. On the other hand, the Ansaris were discriminated against not because they did not have the resource. In fact, despite having the money to pay the required rent, they were not able to find an apartment for over a month. People were reluctant to lease them an apartment because of their religion. Similarly, the main reason that the teachers forced Om Prakash Balmiki to sweep the schoolyard was because he was a Dalit. Women's work is often considered of less value than that of the men. All these persons are discriminated against primarily because of their social and cultural background as well as because they are women. Discrimination on the basis of person's religion, caste, and sex is another significant factor for why people are treated unequally in India. Often, poverty and lack of dignity and respect for certain communities and groups come together in such powerful ways that it is difficult to identify where one aspect of inequality ends and other begins. As you have read, Dalit, Adivasi, and Muslim girls drop out of school in large numbers. This is a combined outcome of poverty, social discrimination, and the lack of good quality schools facilities for these communities. Struggles for equality. Throughout the world, in every community, village, city, and town, you will find that there are some people who are known and respected because of their fight for equality. These people may have stood up against an act of discrimination that they faced or which they witnessed, or they may be well respected because they treat all persons with dignity and are therefore trusted and called upon to resolve issues in the community. Often, some of these persons become more widely recognized because they have the support of and represent large numbers of people who have united to address a particular issue of inequality. In India, there are several struggles in which people have come together to fight for issues that they believe are important. The Tawa Sang in Madhya Pradesh is another example of people coming together to fight against an issue. There are many such struggles, such as those among beedi workers, fisher folk, agricultural laborers, slum dwellers, and each group is struggling for justice in its own way. There are also many attempts to form cooperatives or other collective ways by which people can have more control over resources. Tava Matsya Sang. When dams are built or forest areas declared sanctuaries for animals, thousands of people are displaced. Whole villages are uprooted and people are forced to go and build new homes, start new life elsewhere. Most of these people are poor. In urban areas too, bastis in which poor people live are often uprooted. Some of them are relocated to areas outside the city. Their work as well as their children's schooling is severely disrupted because of this distance from the outskirts of the cities to these locations. People usually come together to fight against this. There are several organizations across the country fighting for the rights of the displaced. In this chapter, we will read about Tava Matsya Sang, a federation of fisher folks cooperatives, an organization fighting for the rights of the displaced forest dwellers of Satpura forest in Madhya Pradesh. Originating in the Mahadev hills of Chindwara district, the Tawa flows through Betul before joining the Narmada in Hoshangabad. The Tawa Dam began to be built in 1958 and was completed in 1978. It submerged large areas of forest and agricultural land. The forest dwellers were left with nothing. Some of them displaced. The people settled around the reservoir. Apart from these meager farms, found a livelihood in fishing. They earned very little. In 1994, the government gave the rights for fishing in the Tawa reservoir to private contractors. These contractors drove local people away and got cheap labor from outside. The contractors began to threaten the villagers who did not want to leave by bringing in hoodlums. The villagers stood united and decided that it was time to set up an organization, do something to protect their rights. The newly formed Tawa Matsya Sangh organized rallies and a Chakka Jam, a road blockade, demanding their right to continue fishing for their livelihood. In response to their protest, the government created a committee to assess the issue. The committee recommended that fishing rights be granted to the villagers for their livelihood. In 1996, the Madhya Pradesh government decided to give to the people displaced by Tawa Dam the fishing rights for the reservoir. A five-year lease agreement was signed 2 months later. On January 2, 1997, people from 33 villages of Tawa started the new year with their first catch. With the TMS taking over the fisher workers were able to increase their earnings substantially. This was because they set up the cooperative which would buy the catch from them at a fair price. The cooperative would then arrange to transport and sell this in markets where they would get a good price. They have now begun to earn 3 times more than they earned earlier. The TMS has also begun giving the fish workers loans for repair and buying of new nets. By managing to earn a higher wage as well as preserving the fish in the reservoir, the TMS has shown that when people's organizations get their rights to livelihood, they can be good managers as well. Indian Constitution as a living document. The foundation of all movements for justice and inspiration for all poetry and songs on equality is the recognition that all people are equal. As you know, the Indian Constitution recognizes the equality of all persons. Movements and struggles for equality in India continuously refer to the Indian Constitution to make their point about equality and justice for all. The fish workers in the Tawa Matsya Sangh hope that the provisions of the Constitution will become a reality through their participation in this movement. By constantly referring to the Constitution, they use it as a living document. That is something that has real meaning in our lives. In a democracy, there are always communities and individuals trying to expand the idea of democracy and push for a greater recognition of equality on existing as well as new ideas and issues. Issues of equality are central to a democracy. In this book, we've tried to highlight issues that pose a challenge to this idea of equality in democracy. These, as you have read, include the privatization of health services in the country, the increasing control that business houses exert on media, the low value given to women in their work, and the low earnings made by small farmers who grow cotton. These issues substantially affect poor and marginalized communities and therefore concern economic and social equality in the country. This is the core of the struggle for equality in democracy. The dignity and self-respect of each person and their community can only be realized if they have adequate resources to support and nurture their families and if they are not discriminated against. Thank you.